This is Orange Nation Overtime with Stephen Fonte and Paulie Sibilia.
Welcome in Orange Nation Overtime, everyone. Alongside Paulie Sibilia, I'm Stephen Fonte. We have made it to Thursday here on the show. When we got off the air yesterday, a couple of roster announcements, I guess you could say. Kyan Anthony is coming back to Syracuse. We knew that was going to happen. Sadiq White, there was some question, but it is official. He posted on social media that he's coming back as well, Paul.
Super athletic kid, showed flashes down the stretch, was knocking down his jumper at the end of the year. I'm happy with that.
Yeah. Showed effort, good defender, toughness. Seems like a good locker room guy. It seems like he's a good fit for Jerry.
This didn't come up on our radio show, and, we kind of were taken aback by Jerry saying retention was important. Are you shocked it's only 2?
Not initially. I thought that, his first answer to Matt Park when he first got the job was there's going to be a lot of changes around here. And then the next week, you're right, on that Monday when he was introduced, he talked about retention being important. So I was like,
the cupboard isn't bare.
And the cupboard isn't bare, and he made some of those comments. So I'm a little surprised after he said that it's only 2, because these were the 2 that I think we all believed all along were coming back.
He could have missed on one.
Yeah, right. Could have been Donnie, could have been Tyler Betsy. And it sounds like Betsy is still open to potentially returning if he doesn't get the option that he wants in the portal. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But when he made that comment about the cupboard's not bare, I thought that it probably meant more than 2. But at the same time, when I said this on the show the other day, I don't think Donnie Freeman is irreplaceable. They'll go in the portal and, they'll find a replacement. I thought after he said that we would see more than 2 guys.
All right. I was interested to find that out from you, Stevie. I was too. I thought there was going to be a push to keep more players,
and as you said, maybe there was.
You
and
got
it just didn't work out.
2 that, showed flashes but weren't exactly consistent and, both had times where they struggled.
And for the second year in a row, they keep 2 guys, and it's the 2 guys we all thought were going to be kept, right? We thought last year it was going to be JJ and Donnie, and it was. And this year we thought it was going to be Kyan and Sadiq, and it is. But it seems like at the moment anyway, no other additions unless Tyler Betsy changes his mind. We did talk a lot of lacrosse on the show today as well. Big one coming up on Saturday between the Syracuse and Virginia men. The ladies play Notre Dame in the afternoon before the spring game at night. We had Pat March, the offensive coordinator for the Orange, on our show today. And we let him off by going back to the North Carolina game and asking him what stood out to him from an offensive perspective in that loss to the Tar Heels.
I think, some of the stuff that we tried to do, when you go back, when you lose a game, you go back and evaluate everything. So I think we did a lot of the stuff that had been successful in previous games. And I think the next time we play them, we may switch some things up and do some things different. But, really, really need to shoot the ball a little bit better. Didn't shoot the ball great in the game.
I don't want you to give away any trade secrets, but, Joey Spallina obviously continues to get a lot of attention. He got a lot of defensive attention in that game and was held scoreless. What adjustments, and maybe just big picture adjustments, need to be made, moving forward so that doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just moving Joey around the formation. And I think otherwise, you got to draw slides. If you draw slides with other players, you're able to get the defense moving around, then you're able to kind of create that. We drew some slides, but we shot the ball early in some possessions that maybe weren't the best shots. I would have loved to see us go a little bit deeper. But, yeah, ultimately you got to get the defense moving around. If you get them moving around, then you'll switch those matchups up.
How much of the offensive production getting held to 9 goals, how much of that was just not cashing in on opportunities? You said a moment ago you got to shoot the ball better. And how much of it, too, was you kind of ran into a hot goalie that day? He obviously played very well, and that's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah, we definitely talk about you want to get a shot on every possession, right? You don't want no shot possessions offensively. We didn't really take care of the ball a ton, but we were able to get a lot of shots on cage. I think maybe we settled for some shots that I wish we would have back that I think if we threw it probably one more, we probably would have had a better opportunity on cage, getting the goalie to move around a little bit more. But yeah, and I think the other thing is possessions. We only had 33 offensive possessions in the game. It's a little bit lower than what we usually have. So you only have so many chances with the ball. You got to take advantage of it.
You guys rank right up there in fewest amount of turnovers year in and year out. Before the Carolina game, you had a string of some really good games in that category. It is a talking point, though, among some fans about, when you guys go away from the Dome, sometimes you do struggle in that category. How do you evaluate your team with how you're doing in terms of taking care of the ball, valuing possessions, and keeping those turnovers down at home versus when you're on the road?
Yeah, I think you break them down no matter what, whether you're home or you're away. You're always breaking down turnovers and how did they happen? Did they happen because of stick work? Did they happen because of decision making? Did they happen because maybe we held the ball too long and we didn't move the ball and we were stripped and the ball was taken away? We had a variety of amount of turnovers in the UNC game. We had a bunch that were rebounds off the goalie that we didn't pick up, or maybe we dropped a ball at our feet stick work wise, and the ball was just kind of there and we didn't pick the ground ball up. They exploded on it and they were able to pick the ball up and go the other direction. So we can do some drills and different things in practice to kind of improve those. But yeah, you want to limit those turnovers. It's something we've been very, very good at. I think pretty much every year I've been at Syracuse, we've been probably top 5 in least amount of turnovers. And the great stick work that our guys have, that helps too.
Pat Martz joining us here on Orange Nation. And, Coach, you guys moved Peyton Anderson to the midfield during that road trip, and he's, seeing a long pole, and we do expect that to continue. You guys have rotated lineups all year. How important is it to get production and continue to get production out of Peyton Anderson?
Yeah, it's huge. Being able, Peyton's a guy that got a short stick for multiple games in a row. And was able to kind of create on his own. And I think he can still do that against a long stick, and was able to do that against UNC a little bit too. But yeah, it's important to be able to draw slides with anybody, and we'll continue to move guys around. We'll continue to switch up the matchups and see where we can kind of pick on a defense with a certain matchup. So I'm very open to moving guys around and doing different things with them.
You guys are currently 4th in the RPI, and that's largely because of the schedule that you've played and that Gary's put together. How do you kind of evaluate the tough schedule to this point? How has it helped you guys in terms of where you are from a record perspective, where you are from a resume perspective, and I mean, maybe even a toughness perspective as the month of May creeps closer?
Yeah, the schedule, I think we're number 1 in strength of schedule in the country right now. It's been a grind throughout the year, but I think through that, you're getting every team's best shot, and you're learning and you're experiencing different things. Teams may 10-man ride, teams may pressure out, teams may pack it in. So we're seeing the best of some very good opponents doing different things. So you hope that you learn something different from each game. That way you come tournament time where it's pretty much do or die, you're able to kind of fall back on those experiences you had throughout the schedule. And I think our guys have learned something every game, and we continue to kind of put that in the back of our mind, and we'll be able to use that come tournament time.
Let's look ahead now to this next opponent, and Syracuse-Virginia is one of the great rivalries in this sport, and it seems like it's always high scoring. It's always decided by a single goal. No matter what the records are of these two teams, the games are always close. They're always entertaining. Do you have a favorite memory? When you look back on this rivalry and the games that you've been a part of?
Yeah, I mean, the last one in the Dome, I think, was an 18-17 game, so you definitely see the offensive coordinator smiling about that. Sammy English, I remember, scored the game-winning goal, and just to see the fans in the Dome go crazy, we get such great support from them. So when you see a game-winning goal, I think there was probably a minute and a half left in the game, maybe a little bit more. It's just, the reaction from the fans is great when you get a big goal like that.
That was the Paul Gate jersey retirement game. And fast forward now to the next time Virginia comes here, and it's another important one with John Desko going into the Ring of Honor. Tough to put into words, I guess, for us, everything that he has meant to Syracuse lacrosse, from player to assistant to head coach, and all that he's meant. I don't know how well you've kind of gotten to know him over the years, but I mean, can you put into words, I guess, what John Desko means to Syracuse lacrosse?
Yeah, I mean, 11 national championships. I don't think you'll see an individual have a part in that many national championships in lacrosse ever again. It's really incredible. 6 as an assistant, 5 as the head coach. I was fortunate enough to work with Coach Desko in 2020, which is obviously a shortened season, and then 2021 for the full year. I was the offensive coordinator with him. So, and he was the one that hired me and brought me in. So he's great. I was able to learn a ton of things as a young coach coming in under him, and able to learn. I really look back fondly of memories of sitting around our conference room table in our office and talking riding and clearing and kind of throwing the X's and O's out on our table and saying, oh, what if they do this? We should do that. He's an incredible coach, an incredible person, and I'm very lucky to have worked for him for 2 years.
One last question about the Virginia game, and I've got one big picture question for you. But in terms of Virginia, when you look at it from an offensive coordinator perspective, what do we need to know about this Virginia defense?
Yeah, their length. I think they've been kind of a priority for their recruiting has been guys with length, 6'7", 6'6", 6'5" guys. So they got some big guys on defense. Transfer goalie, so a guy we haven't really seen. He was the Air Force goalie last year, who's playing really well. I think he's at 58% over their kind of win streak the last few games. So we're definitely gonna have to put good shots on him and make sure we move the ball and we kind of take that length out of it as much as we can.
And then my big picture question is, I'm sure you've seen the reports out this week about, the NCAA looking into this 5-for-5 rule that you get 5 years to play 5 seasons of athletic eligibility once you graduate high school or if you, turn 19 and come in from overseas or whatnot. Do you have an opinion on that proposal? Do you like it? Do you think it's a step in the right direction? How would it affect the game of lacrosse if it's passed?
I think I would love it if we were able to get some of our 2022 class back. But we'll wait and see. It's kind of a wait and see approach. I know 5-for-5 was really discussed in the fall too, and I think the NCAA tabled it. It sounds like maybe through the executive order and a lot of support for it now, it's going to get discussed again. Kind of a wait and see approach for us, but sign me up for having our 2022 class back.
That was Pat March, and we asked him about the 5-for-5 rule. I know it came up on the show yesterday, but I like it too. I think it is a step in the right direction.
I don't like the fact that if you get hurt a couple times, it takes your ability to play away, and you only get. It's not your fault, and you're not trying to bilk the system,
right?
And
maybe there will be exceptions, right? I mean, there are exceptions to every rule. I think the NCAA wants to cut down on all of these waiver requests. Yeah. So maybe, a significant injury may be one of those exceptions. They've already talked about if you go in the military or on a mission trip, that those will be exceptions. Again, if this passes, it's just a proposal right now. I'm also curious to see, and Pat March kind of joked right there about whether or not it'll include, the 2022 class. I'm interested to see that if it is adopted, how quickly it goes into effect. Will it include guys who are currently seniors? Will they be allowed to come back for one more year? We'll certainly have to wait and see. We also had Paul Carcaterra on the show today from ESPN, and we led him off. He was on the call for the UNC game. He's going to be on the call for ESPN this Saturday as well, inside the Dome with the Virginia game. We started him off by asking him about the North Carolina game and whether or not he witnessed the best team in the country on Saturday in the Tar Heels.
I think as of now we have, in terms of just being complete. I mean, UNC right now is just dominating possessions. They're number one in the country in time of possession. Going into last week's game, the craziest stat I've seen is they're averaging 21 more shots per game than opponents. And, in lacrosse, you shoot 30%. I mean, that's 7 goals right there. So it's crazy what Brady Wambach is doing at the faceoff X. He's fueling an offense that is super, super productive and skilled with Owen Duffy and Dom Petramalo to attack. And they have all these young, athletic midfielders that are starting to really come into their own. And a junkyard dog-type defense. It's a little bit of a no-name defense. No preseason All-Americans, but they play super, super well together. I would say yes, as of now. But are they beatable? 100%. This is the difference between 2026 lacrosse in the last 4 years. In 2022, we had an historically good Maryland team. Offensively, top 5 of all time. 23 and 24, we had the Notre Dame back-to-back with the Kavanaughs. Last year, we had C.J. Kirst in Cornell and 13 other seniors winning a championship for the first time since 1979 in Ithaca. Those teams were all special. Everyone that really followed the sport knew this team's going to be really, really tough to beat. I don't put North Carolina at that level right now, which I think could change over the next few weeks, but I just don't feel that it's a team of destiny. Could they win a national championship? Absolutely. But I don't feel they're at that level of those other teams.
One of the things that stood out from that game from a Syracuse perspective, of course, was that Joey Spallina was held scoreless. When you look at the game plan Dave Petramala and company had going into that one facing Syracuse, what stands out to you from the defensive perspective? And how does Syracuse make sure that something like that doesn't happen again here moving forward as we get closer to May?
You could tell the way North Carolina played that they didn't want the ball getting behind with Spallina, because then the defense rotates, and he's fantastic at finding seams and, flash cuts with his teammates, and Finn Thompson sitting on the doorstep. So what Dave Petramala did was he made it really difficult for Joey to get the ball from, the side attack positions to X behind. They shaded a little bit and just made it very uncomfortable. And when he did catch the ball, someone on him immediately. That was their game plan. How do you counter that? More picks, more two-man game. Finn Thompson's one of the best pickers in college lacrosse. He slips picks, very similar to in basketball. When you have the pick game coming to fruition. So I would expect Syracuse to have a lot more pick action against Virginia and make sure that the ball does go behind. There's another way to beat a team that doesn't want the ball to go behind, is you attack them from up top and you make it very uncomfortable, because if they're going to shade behind, they're going to have to give a little, and they're going to have single coverage up top. So the midfielders for Syracuse have to make them pay. So the defense has to play a little bit more balanced. Syracuse's midfield didn't do that last week, so there's no in-game adjustment for Dave Petramala in the Carolina defense. So I just look for an extra dose of the pick game. The tough thing for Joey is he's got a really hard matchup. John Schroeder is a lefty, 6'4", big, strong guy, plays righties really well. Last two games combined, Joey's only had one assist. He had one assist last year down at Virginia, and I think the year before 0. But Syracuse did score 18 goals in that game, so there's other ways to find themes in the offense. But I think for this version of Syracuse, I would find a way to get Joey involved, even though he does have a big matchup with John Schroeder, because I think you want that Virginia defense turning their heads. Virginia's athletic. They're good one-on-one defenders, but they've struggled off ball a bunch, specifically earlier in the year. But I would revisit that and get them to rotate and make sure that the ball goes behind.
On the other end of the field, how much of the defensive struggles were on Jimmy McCool last week? And are you concerned about him at all, or do you look at that just kind of as a one-off, a fluky type performance, and do you expect him to bounce back?
I wouldn't call it a one-off fluky performance, because he's had multiple games under 50%, and he hasn't played his best. I mean, if you look at his first 7 games of the season, he was over 60%, and he's hovering around 40% in the last 4 or 5 games. So there is some concern. I didn't love his play on Saturday at Carolina, just based on the fact, I felt like he wasn't in his typical groove. He guessed a couple times on some shots. They brought in Michael Ippoliti, who was really good in relief. But Jimmy McCool deserves to go out there. He deserves to start. And the good thing for Jimmy McCool and Syracuse fans is when he has struggled in the past to that level, he's always responded. I do like his body language. I think he's a calm demeanor type goalie. He's taken over some games. I mean, this kid's a fantastic goalie. He's just going through a little bit of a rough patch. I think his start against Virginia on Saturday is critical. Those first 5 or 6 shots that he sees. If he's in a groove early, I think you could see the McCool that everyone wants to see. He gets peppered early. I'm worried a little bit if I'm a Syracuse fan.
Virginia is playing some really good lacrosse of late, 2-0 in the ACC after finally beating Duke in the regular season for the first time since 2004. What's changed for them? Virginia got off to that 3-3 start. They've been playing better of late. Why are they different now?
Better defense, off ball, better goalie play. Their goalie, Jake Merrick, has been really good these last bunch of games. He's over 55% in his last 4 games. So he's playing his best lacrosse. The defense is supporting him more. They're definitely speaking the same language. They were a dumpster fire the first 5 or 6 games of the year off ball. Like their team defense and how they did not protect the perimeter. In basketball, we call it the paint area. They were just bad inside and outside. Just not a cohesive group. I found like they've figured out the team defense. They're defending and supporting and helping much better. But I think the biggest difference is the freshman Brendan Millen was kind of platooning a little bit with his brother McCabe and some midfield play, and wasn't necessarily like getting the keys to the offense. Once he's handled the offense in terms of being the quarterback, that offense is taking it to another level. They're number 1 in the nation in assists per game. And Brendan Millen, without question, is the top freshman in college lacrosse. And the Millen brothers combined are the top scoring duo in all of college lacrosse. So I think you have a 1-2 punch there and a defense and goalie that's much, much improved. And allowing Brendan Millen as a freshman to say, like, it's okay, you do have the keys to this offense, even though your brother's a superstar and you have Ryan Colsey here. Like, he's controlling the tempo of this offense. Like, he's a true point guard.
A couple of big picture questions here, Paul. When you look at Joey Spallina, we brought him up a moment ago. We know that he's going to set the all-time points record. You've been around this program for a very long time. Where does he fit in terms of legacy? I know that can be a complicated word sometimes. Does he have to win a national title to be, to be elevated, or, just by what he's meant to the turnaround of this program and the point record and all that, does that cement his legacy in and of itself?
I think from a point production standpoint, I mean, you can't argue what he's done. And it's not like he's played a ton more games than Mike Powell. Heading into last year, or last week for that matter, they played pretty much the same amount of games for the points, per game, per contest perspective. They also played almost the same amount of top 20 opponents. So, like, his production is his production. Like, you can't dispute that. You can't argue it. I will say Mike Powell was a 4-time first-team All-American, right? 4-time Turnbull Award winner. Joey's going to be a first-team All-American this year. It'll be his first time doing it, and that's given to the top 3 to 4 attackmen, depending on the year, every single season. So we're talking about Mike Powell, the greatest attackman I've ever seen. There was a lot of other phenomenal attackmen: Casey Powell, John Zilberti, Tom Marichek, Mike Lavelle. The list goes on and on. This school has just produced Tim Nelson, you could argue, is one of the greatest of all time. Just so many multiple-time first-team All-Americans. So Joey, just from a sheer national accolade perspective, is below those guys. But I don't think that's what this is all about, to be honest with you. And I've struggled with that question, because I think we're at a totally different time. When Tim Nelson came into Syracuse, he would be the greatest comparison, because Syracuse hadn't arrived on the national stage yet, and Tim Nelson came in the early 80s and was part of that first national championship in 83. But when you're comparing Gary Gait and Mike Powell, they came into the program, and the program is super, super healthy and won national titles before them and after them. Joey Spallina came at the worst year in the modern era of Syracuse lacrosse. That's what he was coming in off the heels of 2022. 4 games the program won. It was the worst since 1975. If he's able to bring the program back and win a national title, his legacy for me is more about that and resurrecting the program and bringing the program back than it is who he's better than, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to compare Joey Spallina to Mike Powell and Gary Gait. It's not fair to Mike Powell and Gary Gait or Joey Spallina. That's the best attackman I've ever seen. That's the best player I've ever seen in Gary Gait. So that's not up for discussion for me, a win, lose, or draw this season. But what is up for discussion is like his ability to elevate a program with his senior class when the team hasn't won since 2009, has been to only one Final Four since 2013. That's a heck of a legacy for Joey Spallina, and I think that's where I've kind of headed in that direction, if that makes sense.
Not only does it make sense, it might be the best answer I've heard to that question. I've asked that to several people, and that might be the best answer I've gotten. It makes 100% sense to me. Another kind of a big picture question, Kark, as you look at John Desko, and again, I know you've been around this program for a very long time. He's going to go in the Ring of Honor on Saturday, his rightful place there. What has he meant to Syracuse lacrosse over all these years?
I mean, when you think about it, first of all, he's a great man. Like he embodies like what a Central New York man should be like, right? Like you're honest, you're hardworking, you're straight up, just a good, wholesome person. That's who he is at his core. But look, the program won 11 national titles, and not one of those national titles was won without John Desko being on the sideline. I mean, think about that for a second, right? Like 6 as an assistant under Coach Simmons, and he won 5 of his own. I think he's one of the most underrated X's and O's lacrosse guys out there ever, along with Kevin Donahue. Fantastic lacrosse minds, both from the same town in Camillus, New York, both went to West Genesee, graduated high school and college together. Like Kevin Donahue was such a big part of that as well. But John Desko, to me, is one of the greatest winners the sport has ever seen. I mean, 11 national titles. And from an X's and O's standpoint, like his handprints are all over those titles, right? And he's exactly what the program needed. You had like the artist in Roy Simmons Jr., who the field of lacrosse was like a blank canvas. And John Desko had like a toolbox. He's like, let's get to work, right? So it was just a great combination, and it worked on so many levels. I'm so grateful for Coach Desko. He recruited me. He believed in me. He took a lot of time to make sure that, you know, I was maximizing my talent.
And again, busy day inside the Dome on Saturday. Women's lacrosse takes on Notre Dame at noon. Men's lacrosse takes on Virginia at 4 o'clock, and then the spring game coming up later that night. So a full day of SU sports inside the Dome on Saturday.
Yep, and I'm looking forward to the spring game, Steve. I want to see the receivers and the backup quarterbacks, skill positions.
Yeah.
You can't really learn anything about the lines.
Right.
And those are probably the next 2 biggest questions, if they're going to be able to get pressure on the quarterback this year and if they're going to be able to keep their quarterback straight up.
I think the number one question is, all right, if Steve Angeli doesn't play or gets hurt or goes down, or what's behind him? And so, hopefully we'll get a good look at who else is in the quarterback room.
And if
on
that
Saturday.
Is good, can somebody catch the ball and get separation?
It's a fair point.
All right, Steve. It's National Name Yourself Day today, and I don't know why I wanted this name as a kid, but if you could rename yourself, is there a name you always wanted?
So I have 2 answers to this question that I don't know if I'm going to share something that I don't think a lot of people know about me. My dad, I think you know this about me. My dad wanted to name me Lucius. My mom would not allow it.
I get that.
We settled for Steve Jr. My dad's name is Steve as well.
Lucius and Fonzie.
Right, I know. Fast forward to my high school years, and I took German because I really liked the teacher, and I happened to like a girl that was in the class, and I took German, and there was no equivalent for Steve. So I took Spanish, and it's Esteban, right? So I was assigned Esteban. In German, there's no equivalent. So she said my teacher said you could pick anything you want. So I picked Dirk. So my name in class for German class was Dirk.
Dirk Infante. Lucius would be a cool middle name. Like they couldn't even get that, like Stephen Lucius Infante.
No, we went. My dad's Stephen James, so we went Stephen. I'm Stephen James Infante Jr.
Yeah, man, when you were playing basketball, everybody could have been like, Lucius.
That's right. That's right.
That would have been cool.
So that's
your mom whiffed on that one.
In all honesty, that's partly why I named my son Luke.
Oh.
So I have a Luke James. And
gotcha.
Same idea.
I don't know why I wanted this name as Quentin.
Interesting.
I wanted to be Quentin Sibilia.
Q. They call you Q. I like it. No, you're just Paulie.
You think this would work? Hey, thanks for joining us on Orange Nation today. I'm Quentin Sibilia.
Dirk Lucius and Fonzie. Probably not. That's funny. Anyway, see now we all know something about each other that I don't think you knew that about me. Anyway, we got to run. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody. For Paulie, I'm Steve. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, everybody.
Download the WSYR Plus app on your TV to stream News Channel 9 for free. Just go to your smart TV, search WSYR Plus in the App Store, and download to start streaming today.